combination resumes are just that. They combine functional and chronological. So what's the benefits of using a combination format? Christy.
Okay, so I would say a combination resume, the benefit of using it is it really allows you to highlight for the employer, your transferable skills that you've had and used in various positions as they relate to the employer's needs. It can be really beneficial to someone that's a career changer, and so they may not have the titles that are common within the profession, but they've used the skills and have developed the skills that are needed within the profession. So that can be, really beneficial. And I prefer using a combination resume over a purely functional resume, again, because it kind of conforms to what employers are looking for in their preference, at the same time allows you to, highlight certain skills for them.
Okay. We have an example here of a John Doe combination resume. Craig, can you talk to this one, or is this yours, Christy?
This one's mine, so probably easier for me.
Okay.
This is a case where someone had been using organizational development skills through their different positions, but as you'll see, their position titles don't reflect that. They had a fairly recent, in the last 2 or 3 years, degree as a master's in organizational development, and that was really the career that they were going for. So in this case, we did put an objective on there, organizational development consultant, and then the summary of qualifications to highlight what their total summary of experience is as it relates to what they're looking for. You can see, I don't think this is fluff. It really is trying to showcase their skills, that they have 10 years of experience, using organizational development skills in a leadership role, and shows some of those competencies. They're a change agent. That's something people are looking for in this field, with a track record of success helping organizations. High performer, recognized. So you'll see that the statements that some people might put on there as looking for. Then underneath in the chronology, you'll see that their titles, Senior Manager of Instructional Design, Manager of E-Learning, Manager of Payments. We kind of grouped those together rather than separated them. In a traditional chronological resume, you would rather probably list the title and then the accomplishments under that role, and then list the title and the accomplishments under that role. In this case, we put those together to show their progression in the company, but then we broke out their skills underneath. Organizational design or curriculum design, and listed those. Process improvement, listed those. Management consultant, listed those. And then earlier in their career, they actually worked in banking as a mortgage loan originator and a branch manager. Again, doesn't scream OD to me, but the things they did, they worked on culture change and employee engagement as the branch manager. They actually turned around the organization. They were involved in employee development and training. So you can see this resume is going to be much more compelling to a hiring manager hiring for an OD consultant than if we had used a purely chronological format.
Very good.
One point on the keywords that are used in the summary, or really anywhere else, is make sure you can do this honestly, of course, but make sure those keywords in your resume match the keywords that you saw in the job description or the job posting. Because that's going to make it easier for the hiring manager to see that you really have what they're looking for. And it'll also help for those recruiters or hiring managers that use software programs that are geared for keyword searching.
Yes.
Yes, and I agree with that. That's one of the important ways to customize your resume for each opportunity. And I have a really good example of that because I worked with a client that was interested in getting into, what most of us would refer to as process improvement, quality type work. Those are typically the words you would see in someone's job posting, but he pulled one that said, I think they called it at that organization process optimization. So it's not something that you wouldn't want to go in and replace every time you used process improvement with optimization, because that might look like a little strange, but you want to make sure that at least, once or twice you optimize the process in there and process optimization, because that's probably what they're keying in on. And it shows
Sure.
you're speaking their language.
Sure.
See you as part of their organization.
Sure. One thing that I'd like to address, we have one more example, and it's actually from Illinois WorkNet. Craig, if you can address this, and also how do they address that on their resume? And then we have another question from the audience about which format is better for someone from academia. So could you answer both of those and then just give us a brief review of what this Ready Job Hunter resume looks like?
Well, yes, I'll address the first question first here. It's a tough one if somebody has been in prison. I would just leave the gap. If they were in prison from 2000 to 2003, I would just leave it out and not put that on your resume. What I find is best when people contact us first before they even send a resume, say, do you deal with people that have criminal records? And if the company just flat out won't hire anybody with a record, then you might as well not waste your time there. But there's others that will, or will consider you depending upon the circumstances. Honestly, I haven't thought of any good filler to put in there. So I just leave it blank and wait till you get a chance to explain.
All right. So then what about the academia?
I'm not as experienced in that, but my inclination is to go with a combination functional with a backup of chronology, where were you, but most of it would be focused on the functionality of what you did and what you can do.
All right. All right. We have a question. Go ahead, Christy.
Well, I was going to say, I think it depends on what kind of position you're going in for in academia, because certainly if it's a faculty type position, it's not uncommon for academic CVs to be longer than resumes, to include things like publication and research. Logical, resume probably is still acceptable. Again, it depends on how your experience aligns with what they're looking for. Every resume is different, and we always say, the goal of resumes often is trying to address all these challenges and figure out the best way to market yourself for a position.
All right, we have two questions that I've just seen in the chat. Christina asks, isn't it risky to put an objective that states the position you want because it might be off-putting if you are asking for a position that is higher or lower than the position the employer is looking for? In the objective, we want to put a generality, right? Not the specific position.
Actually, I would say that's someplace you want to customize the resume. So if they're looking for an OD manager, you would want to put, if that's your objective, you would want to put OD manager and make it clear to them. So I would say you would want to be specific, because you can be, because we have the opportunity to update our resume for each opportunity. That's my opinion.
I agree with that. If you want to make an exception, and let's say the position you're aiming for a position that you're worried about what the level is, instead of saying I want to be the customer service manager, you might just say I want to continue my career in customer service, to leave it a little bit more loose, so you could perhaps be considered for more than one level.
If you don't know what openings they have available.
Yeah.
But I would do what you said earlier and use a marketing letter, or I call it a target company letter, where if you don't know what opportunities they have available, you might use a letter which highlights your skills and experience without attaching a resume to try to get a conversation or a dialogue going.
All right, we have another question from the audience about limiting your experience on a resume. And Leanne, I would like you to address this from a marketing perspective. How does somebody address the fact that they are mature with many years of experience that they can bring to the table to help guide? How do they address that on their resume?
I think that's where you go back to that blended resume. And whether if you're with one company, you can say what you've done. Additionally, I think Craig has talked about this before, about having additional skill sets kind of at the bottom. Now for employers to seeking the older, more mature workers because of their work ethics. I keep on seeing these being posted, different research and different articles. They're just more reliable. I mean, that's what some of, when you start looking at the research and what people are seeking. Where, maybe 10 years ago, being older was not a good thing. I think right now being older might be a good thing. And maybe Craig and Christy can add on to that. I don't know.
Last question that I would like to ask, and I do think that we need to have a whole webinar on this, is what are the value of cover letters these days? Craig?
I guess I'll start first. I forgot where the question was and how it was worded, but I think they were pretty well on target when they said it seems like cover letters are fading from use, and that's probably an accurate description. One of the reasons they're fading from use is the advent of submitting resumes by email. There's no reason to have a cover letter with your resume as the attachment, but people use the email itself as a cover letter, so they tend to not use it otherwise. To me, a cover letter is like wrapping paper. It's pretty, it's nice, but the first thing you do is tear it off and get to the present inside. So in some cases they're expected and they dress it up, but don't put, what I don't like is don't rehash your whole resume in your cover letter. Make a key point or two about how you're tailored for this particular job, but keep it brief.
Correct. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar. I would especially like to thank our presenters, Leanne Hoagland-Smith from Advanced Systems, information is in the front of the handout for the webinar, and Craig Frank, our on-site expert for employment services just from St. Charles, Illinois. I really thank them for giving us their time today and helping us and all of our participants listen to this great information. What I would like to do is give you a commercial about some upcoming webinars that we have. On April 9th and 10th, we are going to be talking about career transition. We're looking forward again further to an actual resume review where we will get some resumes from our audience and actually dissect them. So if you're brave, watch for that posting about that webinar. A couple of other ideas that we have going around is digital job search, and then we were talking about doing a webinar on ATS, which is the systems that track keywords that many employers are using these days. We might even consider a cover letter webinar and something on interviews. If you would like to give us some feedback about what you would like to hear in an upcoming webinar, join our group at Illinois Virtual Job Club Network on LinkedIn. We posted that at the beginning of the chat. Join that group on LinkedIn and watch for that particular question. give us your feedback. If you would like to get a copy of the chat, please put your email in the chat pod. We will leave the webinar open for just a few more minutes so that you can write down some email addresses or web links.